Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB Podcast. Today we welcome PJ Harries, who is the founder of Gibraltar Trading Company and a Royal Marines veteran. Welcome, PJ.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No worries.
It's mate. Thank you for freeing up some time. You're running a successful veteran-owned business, which we can't wait to hear all about. But before we get into that, let's have a quick highlight reel of your military career.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's quite an easy one. It won't take us long. So I joined in January 2012, joined the Marines. I joined relatively young. I was kind of in that sweet spot. I tried to join when I was 16. And essentially my mum said, no, don't be silly. So I did the classic thing, went to ask my dad and he said, no, don't be silly. I'm not messing with your mum. So anyway, deferred that. And it was kind of one of those, if I really wanted it, I'm sure I could have pushed for it. But ended up going to sixth form, not really doing a lot, getting some qualifications, and then joined at 18, having a 19th birthday in training. It was a strange one. I'm from the generation that of sort of Marines that are famous for doing absolutely nothing. Because we joined where everything was pointed towards Afghan and Iraq. All the training, all of the training team and the DS was very experienced, 2, 3, 4 tours of Iraq, Afghanistan mixed up. And then by the time we sort of passed out and I went straight to 4-2, it was essentially all done and dusted. 40 were finishing up the last Herrick. And that was it. There was no more sort of traditional operational tools from then. So there was a bit of that transition period, settling into units with lads that had just come back. And then it was sort of relatively run-of-the-mill, had a good time. Got some good trips, did some mountain training, went out on like the first Op Cougar, or Black Alligator, before that. It's like the one of the training exercises they do in the US, and it was like the first one back after the hiatus for 10, 12 years from Herricks. So it was quite good. It was a really extended one. They were sort of trying to figure out how they're going to run it in the future. It was just good fun. It ended up in a piss up in Vegas. A few sort of trips like that. Then again went on like the first Operation Cougar, which was just essentially a show of force and partner forces type thing in the Middle East. Traveled around a little bit. I did some mountain training in Albania in that. When I came back from that, pretty much almost straight away got pinged for drives. Managed to somehow swap my draft to LCs, mainly because they wanted LCs at the time, and I thought about doing that anyway. So landing craft. So I went down to Plymouth. Well, I was in Plymouth anyway, but went down to Devonport where they were doing the course. Did that. Went up to 4-3 Commando to boat troop. Mixed reviews up there. You know, Faslane's an interesting place, and it's also a very boring place. But got
Practically
a couple of
Greenland.
Yeah, it was pretty dire at points. For about 3 days a year, it's like living in Canada. For the rest of the time, it's like living in Mordor. So yeah, did that. Managed to get a couple of STTT short-term training teams with some partner forces as well, which is really cool out in Africa. And that's really where it sort of started going downhill, if you like. Wanted to get out the branch, didn't want to promote to corporal and ended up on ship for 2 years. Essentially went through round the houses, but weren't going to be released from the branch unless I wanted to go SF or PTs. And if you saw my PT scores or the way I run, neither of those were realistic. So it was just sort of ultimatum, okay, well, I didn't really want to leave the Corps. Nothing else was going on. No operational tours. So I put my chit in and left. Started doing some contracting stuff for some hostile environment courses and some anti-poaching stuff, which was, again, really fun. Using some of those lessons that I learned on the STTTs, working through translators, that sort of thing. Did a few sort of trips here and there, went out to Ukraine a couple of times, a lot back in Africa and over in the US, which were the really cushy ones. Made my way, got into the fire service, did that for a few years, went travelling for a bit, over in Australia, New Zealand. GTC started really kicking off, and we hit that tipping point of, you know, come back and headline into it sort of full time and see if we can make a run of it. and that was a year ago, January just gone.
So
So that's pretty much to where we are.
you've been about a bit then. You've travelled a bit.
Yeah,
That
yeah. It's not. I'm only 32, but by the look of me, it's like oof, there's some mileage there, isn't there?
so that is for a short period of time. You quite a lot sort of smashed in there. So we come on to the next bit. So you've left the military now, and you've now ventured into your business, which is like Gibraltar Trading Company. So what is GTC?
Yeah, it's a great question. And if you find out, please let me know. So, excuse me. So it's really hard to categorize, and I've been for years. I've done a few podcasts now, and people ask that same question or a similar run of that question, and I've never really been able to give a good, snappy answer. Obviously, as a wannabe businessman and trying to run a company, I really want to come up with a good, snappy answer of sort of what it is, so that it sort of explains it really well. But the best I've got to right now is essentially just another veteran-owned brand, but we're not another veteran-owned brand. And that's about as good as I can do. It was sort of, it didn't start off being what it is now, and I never started it intending it to be my job or intending it to be built into what it is. And we can go into that when we talk about sort of how and when we started. But essentially, what it's become now is very much a community-driven project, if you like. One of the analogies that I like to use in a very pusser's way is I'm the captain of the ship, but I can't crew it on my own, and I don't own the ship. Just like most captains don't own the ship. That belongs to the community. So it's sort of like, yes, I'm here trying to steer it, trying to make decisions that are the best for the crew and for the brand. But in reality, GTC's long before, or a few years ago, wasn't really mine anymore. The decisions I really make now are, yes, what I would want to make, what I want to produce. But it's really just based on what the community sort of asks for. Like people that I chat to online say, we want silkies for our regiment. No worries, I'll make it happen. People wanted flannel shirts, rash guards, different this, different that. No worries, I'll make it happen. And then mix it in with stuff that I'm like, well, why aren't we making this like in the veteran-owned space? So essentially, it is a veteran-owned apparel brand, but we also have bits of sort of kit equipment, especially in development, and a bit of sort of stuff that you wouldn't see from a normal veteran-owned brand. So we do the caps, hoodies, t-shirts, designs, things like that. A lot of our designs are a bit more subtle, a bit more wear every day, a bit more sort of casual nods to the history and the service rather than big open prints, although we do have those as well. And then a few more sort of specialist items, silkies like the short shorts, flannel shirts, Sherpa jackets. We've got some cool like gilets coming and things like that. So yeah, it's a mixture of being another veteran-owned brand and also just being a little bit different.
So where did the idea come from, though? It seems like, because obviously Marines, fire service, to now a awesome sort of brand that you're creating, an awesome company. Where did the actually idea come from?
Oh, appreciate that. I mean, it's the usual phase of sort of a series of unfortunate events, I think, isn't it? So essentially, from the time in the Marines, I had some damage to my ankle and needed an operation while I was still serving in the fire service. And it was sort of in between the two lockdowns back in around 2020 is when we sort of started. And essentially, all my hobbies to date were very active. So it was sort of, my missus was like, well, you're going to be laid up for a good fair amount of months. Like, find something to do that isn't physical. Otherwise, you're going to do my head in. So, and that's essentially what I did. I just sort of started playing around with some designs and some drawings and things like that. And the first thing that I sort of came up with was, well, weirdly enough, this one behind me, which is essentially our sort of OG logo, the base logo that we have, baseline logo. And the idea behind it was just creating a design that was very much like the Globe and Laurel. In terms of every element you see there means something. Gibraltar Trading Company, it's a trading company itself, and the font that we use is a nod to East India Trading Company, the industrial war complex that made Britain really great. We try and sort of disregard all the bad stuff they did. It kind of spoils the story a bit. So we focus on the good bits that they brought to the world and ignore the purges. The Commander Dagger and the Fire Axe Cross, relatively self-explanatory, but a nod in a subtle way. Again, the word Gibraltar, just a nod back to the Marines in a very subtle way. And even the way that we put it in the cross, again, nod to the trading company kind of vibe. And then the circle as well is kind of like one of those Chad community things. It's in a circle because, you can't do anything alone and it's all together, all continuous, and everyone in the journey is part of GTC. Again, so there's Chad bits to it, and there's sort of deep meaning behind the brand, but it's we also don't take ourselves too seriously. So it started off by making that, a few other designs, made some stickers, put them out there in the world. People started going, oh, they're quite cool. Can I buy some? Made an Etsy, started selling on Etsy. Then people started going, well, can we get a T-shirt? And I was like, yeah, all right, I'll do a T-shirt. And that was the one and only pre-order we've ever done. And we're never going to do another one unless we very have to, because Jesus, it is admin. So, yeah, we did that. And then it was very much so as it started building a bit of legs and people started sort of jumping on board and making requests or being a part of the brand, it was sort of like, well, it would be a bit of a disservice if we didn't build something around it. So we built up the motto of stay wavy and what it meant to us and how it works for us. Then the ethos came on of hard work, integrity, sacrifice and service. Then a few of the other designs sort of came in. And then it's just sort of snowballed from there, if you like. It's sort of, we've added the ethos to it, we've added the motto, built this brand and this community around it, and then the products have just sort of fallen in, and it's been like, oh, I wear trucker hats, I'll make some trucker hats. Or everyone in the military and services we all wear flannel shirts. Why is no one making flannel shirts? We all wear short shorts, or vast majority of us wear short shorts. Why is no one making silkies over here? And it was just essentially that. It's just trying to be a brand, be a company that I'd want to shop from, and deliver products of a good, high quality level at a fair price.
Mate, I think like to go from selling stickers on Etsy to selling, real quality apparel, mate, and building that community is incredible, and it's that momentum, and if people want more, I'll give them more. If people want me to develop this, I'll develop that. And the fact that you now have, like you say, you've got an ethos, even the design of your logo. When we talk to some of the brands we've had on, some of them have gone, if you want the modern, they've gone, I've got an idea of what I want and I'm going to chat GPT it and hopefully get something decent. And that's just a sign of the times, where if you've gone, no, I've got this idea of bits of detail. I love that, mate. I love the fact that you've like iteratively improved and grown the brand. Did it start as an idea to, this is an opportunity for me to do this full time? Or did it start literally as a side hustle?
Yeah, it didn't even start as a side hustle. It literally started, as I said, as something to do. And then it was like, well, I've got these designs. I might as well log on to Sticker App, make a bunch and see if anyone wants them. And essentially that's essentially what it's been. But it was probably a few years ago when I started adding the ethos and the motto and stuff that I realized that, it's becoming a bit of a thing. People want to be part of it. And I felt like it would be doing the community, if you like, a disservice if there wasn't more to it, if it wasn't more of an established entity, if you like. If it's just literally a T-shirt with a brand on it, it could really be any influencers, any high street brand you want to name. It was more about wanting to do the community that were already following, getting behind it, giving them a bit more validity. Not sure if that's a word, but it sounds good.
Definitely a word.
Nice, nailed it. Giving them a bit more of what it is and like creating it, and it's very much an extension of my personality, but from what it is now, not from what it was when I was in the Marines. So it's very difficult because obviously our history is very much from service, and one of our sort of ethos points is sacrificing service. But one of the things that we try to do is not to be too militaristic, not too service related, because one of the things that we've learned over the years is that many people that leave services or join services have that mindset and that difference-making personality already. It's usually not that the service provides it, it's that the services bring it out of you. And there are other ways for those personality traits to come out through various things in the civilian world. It seems to be a bit rarer that it comes out. Specific job roles, specific life choices and things that happen to you seem to be brought out. And there seems to be a greater proportion of people leaving the services that it does pull out from. But the point is that it was trying to be something for everyone that aligns with that ethos, not just military. So yeah, it just sort of has always been around about what people want and the people that are buying into it. And that's why it's grown to what it is. There was never an intention, to go back to your original point, there was never an intention for it to be a job or to be a career or to even be a brand. One of our taglines when we first started was like, we're not a clothing brand, we're just going to do stickers. And that changed probably within about 3 months. So we're continuing to change. We're happy to be hypocrites in a lot of scenarios. So yeah,
I think a couple of things you've said there. One of the things that jumps to me from a veteran perspective, and from like linking to your brand, is when you're in the military. There's two things that jump out specifically when people leave the military, and that's your identity and your purpose. Is the way I see it. So when we're in the military, regardless of what service you're in, regardless of your cap badge, regardless of your job, your identity is kind of taken care of in the sense that, you're going to do this, you're going to do this kind of stuff. You need to have these courses, you need this qualification, you're going to work in this kind of way. And then your purpose is kind of taken care of, whether that's deploying, whether that's the SWPTs, whether that's sport, whatever it is, and you get your serving the country, you're doing that kind of thing. When you leave, they're the two things that's like trying to recognize where you're going to fit in. Do you know what I mean? What does your identity look like now?
Yeah, 100%. And
wait, how do you recognize purpose again?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's something that I definitely struggled with. And one of the reasons why I ended up joining the fire service was trying to establish that purpose and trying to be back to being part of something bigger than yourself. Mixed results of that with the fire service, but you sort of get an element of it. But it's very much people leave the service and you lose those two big things. You lose that identity and you lose a sense of purpose. And you can find it again, and a lot of people do find it again, but it's never the same. And like GTC for me is a purpose now, and it's, I'm a part of it, and it's bigger than, I could ever imagine it or dream it would have been. So that for me now has replaced that for me. But, it can be that for other people, or at least a portion of that for other people. And that's one of the good things about it. But it's, it's not exclusively down to service. I think a lot of normal people struggle with that as well. They like, I say normal people because most people that are in service are a bit clicked in the head. But it's sort of, no matter what your job is, you might have that sort of lack of identity. You might not have found it yet. And I think that's why it hits veterans and service leavers so hard, because
2 seconds.
Yeah, crack on.
Once I finish work, off you go, mate. In 20 minutes.
You gotta love it, innit?
Again.
Don't open the door again.
Thought you locked the door.
Stay outside.
Thought you locked the door.
Yeah.
I've locked it, mate. I've locked it, but she's a genius, mate. She keeps opening it. Sorry, just to edit that tiny bit out. Like GTC absolutely has a purpose, and I see it, mate. And it's like, for me, I left 4 years ago. That's it. And I went through even like solid little things. Like I went through like, well, I'm going to grow long hair because I've never been allowed to have long hair, and I grew like big long hair, mate. Then I was like, no, I don't want. I'm going to grow a massive beard. Then it's like, well, because I'm not allowed a beard. And now I'm growing a mullet. Don't judge me. But it's like trying to find judged. What does that look like from an identity point of view? And then the purpose thing for us is I find the podcast, which is totally voluntary that we do and around our lives and around our jobs, is like, for me, it almost like gives us a bit of purpose back, like reconnecting with the community. People like you have started businesses, people like you have had careers, and other people. And it's like having that conversation where you've never met someone before, but within like 10 minutes, you're just chatting about the same stuff. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's a real odd one, mate, but it's difficult to like articulate when you try and explain it to other people about having purpose and about connecting with people.
Yeah, it is very difficult. And I think I we did like some of our first events this year, and that's really like 100% what you say. You know, I get that to a point when I'm like chatting to people online, you know, and it attracts the same sort of mindset from all different things, but mainly veterans and services. And it's even, like at that Gen Dit event, you know, you chat to people and they've either heard about you or not, and they ask questions and you ask questions, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, there is more people that think like I do than I thought there is. And that again brings you back into that, connects you back into that world, doesn't it?
It does. And I think one of the, it definitely does. And like one of the things I really like about like GTC is you're not just a military veteran owned brand. It's weird, mate. When I first saw some of your stuff, I didn't realize you were veteran owned until you dig into the social medias. Your social media is on point, by the way. You know, even having a following of 17,000 is huge. But your clothing is normal, wearable clothing. Do you know what I mean? It's not in your face military stuff. And even the GTC, there are subtleties to the Marines and stuff, but it could easy and does push the space in a normal brand. Do you know what I mean? You just seem to have got it right. Like flannel shirts, the caps, absolutely. But let's focus a little bit on the silkies, mate. On the short shorts.
With pleasure.
It's like there's a short like revolution going on. You know,
Yeah.
I love the designs, mate, and I just think, where did you first think, I'm going to bring it to the people?
Yeah, I mean the silkies have really been sort of like, they're not really I wouldn't say they're sort of like the only thing we sell, but they're definitely up there with the bestseller. You know, they do really, really well. Closely followed by a few things, granted, but like it's definitely part of what sets us apart from other brands and stuff. And, you know, like you said about the branding, you know, we didn't put this symbol on the silkies for a very specific reason. And that reason wears a silly red hat and pretends to jump out of planes. A lot of them hate wearing this dagger and will not be seen dead wearing this dagger. So I think it's changed a little bit now. And I know a few powers that do wear our baseline stuff and our flannels with stuff like this. So it is changed a bit. But when we first started doing it, I thought to myself, right, I'm going to try and bring out silkies, you know. And we actually brought them out with a completely different design. And it was the Axe and Dagger with GTC on it, the Mark 1s. And the feedback we got from it was they were amazing. We bought the Sophie ones in bulk and we heat transferred on our vinyl logo ourselves. Great response, sold loads of them, gone really well. No reg guys bought them at all. Multiple said to us, I'm never going to wear them because I got a dagger on them. And I was like, all right, noted. And then it was like our love of camouflage and Larry shorts and just wearing short shorts. You know, in the Marines, it's a big thing, but all the services wear a lot of them. In the rugby world, short shorts were a huge thing. They're sort of becoming a bit more like the slightly more PC version of Budgie Smugglers. And it was like, well, okay, so let's do some camo ones. We like camo. We did some original sort of camos and some of the classic cult ones. Had to deal with some licensing issues and made sure that we released MC camo shorts and BMC camo shorts. Definitely not multicam or black multicam, if Cry is asking. Definitely not. So we've had some issues like that. But the old ones, like, you know, the Tiger Stripe Rhodesian, you know, they're not trademarks. You can run them off quite easily. And it was very much like, oh, okay, what design can we do that's going to be the same vibe, suit what we're doing, have our logo and our branding on there, but in a subtle way. And again, that comes back to all of our, because we want to do everyday wear that you can wear day to day, we don't do a load of big prints. So our logo is the design for that, wherever that thing is, like the hat I'm wearing now. The logo is the design. So it's like, that's why we've got so many logos, because they are the design. It's not like, it's a weird way of doing it. It's not necessarily the traditional way, because for branding, they're like, stick to one logo, make that logo worldwide, but that's not how we've done it. I'm going massively around the houses here, but the logo on Silkies were made essentially to have that vibe of the Shaka, the Stay Wavy motto, have our name in there, but also to be able to be worn by everyone, even if you're reg. and for some reason you hate daggers. So that's how we come up with that logo. And then it was just, they're a huge thing in the US, Ranger panties, silkies and all that. And I remember when the few trips that I went out to the US, everyone would stockpile them. You'd stockpile the USMC ones and you'd go and essentially buy the PX out of silkies. And it was like, because you couldn't get them back home. And then in the US, they started doing camo versions of them, you know, aftermarket and improving on the classic Sophie ones. And I was like, I wanted to buy some. I bought some from Zulu Foxtrot, I think it was. And they were the Sophie ones. And I was like, these aren't as good as what they could be. They're all right. They're quite fun, but I had to pay loads to get them over here. And it's like, they're not quite as good as I would want them to be. And they go see-through when you get them wet and things like that. So I essentially was like, right, let's give it a go. Let's see if people want them. Made the improvement on the Mark 1s, brought out the Mark 2s, and that's the design we're running with now. And it just went mental. All
Mate,
the
it
inner
is,
pests
mate.
come out of nowhere.
There are people, mate. There are people. Ben Wadham's a good example, right? He loves, mate. If he isn't a brand ambassador for short shorts, mate, he is always in them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely
always in them.
Yeah, he was actually my one of my PTIs in training.
He's another lad, mate. We'd love to get Ben on, mate, with some of the stuff he's doing. But it's just like, you see him like now. You look at the content. There's a lot of people who they're just wearing them. They're wearing them for everything, mate. And I think honestly, it's almost like to be at the leading edge of that, like a change in fashion and a change in military fashion. If you wanted to relate back to, back in, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, when, let's look at Parachute Regiment, they'd always wear denims, desert boots and a bomber jacket type thing. There's like stereotypical things. And to have silkies as almost be now a stereotypical thing that veterans and military are wearing, mate, that's ace, mate.
Yeah.
It's
hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. I mean, we've definitely shifted enough of them that it could be. And hopefully it is. I mean, you never really know, like, especially for me who spends all my days essentially sitting in this office or packing orders and rarely get out to the outside world anyway. I see it obviously online, but it's hard to believe until you see it in person. And we've actually got some events at some camps, and we've got some events at some fitness events this year that we're going to be at, and seeing them around is going to be a little bit more, hopefully it'll make me believe, and hopefully it is the case that it is becoming a bit of a thing. But yeah, no, it's cool. It is so cool. And like, I've always loved short shorts. I played rugby all of my life. So anything below mid thigh is trousers. And that is the way I feel about it. And it's so funny as well, because in the dead ground.
Yeah, we've had Danny on,
Yeah, so he's a good bloke, and like, obviously he has trousers that he sells, and he calls them short shorts. So every time he brings something up about short shorts, I cannot help but jumping on there and be like, "Oh, are you sure? I can see your thighs there." So that's always a good one. But they're great about it, and obviously, like, it's awesome, and I love to be able to do it. And we're up to 37 variations now. It's been hard because it was a big risk when we first started, because we couldn't get them here in small quantities. So I had to invest quite a lot of my own money, and it took, a lot of money just to find the right supplier to do them in the right way. I've thrown away so many pairs of just rubbish, just cheaply made tat, and it's just like, I'd buy a bunch, wear them for ages, wash them, run in them. Something wouldn't be right. Try and work with that supplier, and it just wouldn't work. Index that supplier, hundreds, thousands of pounds in with that one. Right, on to the next one. Try again. So it was a process. It was a risk, and then it hurt a little bit once we started releasing a few. We saw quite a few other companies pop up and start doing them, and it was like, oh, we worked so hard, but arguably, it could have just been coincidence. It is a popular product in the US. It's getting more popular over here. Could have been coincidence. They were also jumping on board. It just hurt a little bit because it was like, I've worked really hard to get these right. I don't know. Theirs may have been as good, better, not as good. Don't know. However, I don't see them from other companies very much anymore. So hopefully that's a good sign for us, selfishly.
I tell you what I like about him, mate. I tell you what I really like about him, because I am Paul. We do a lot of running, mate, right? Or not particularly well, but we'll do ultra marathons, 10Ks, all that kind of thing, right? And also, I've played a lot of football. So when I was in the army, I played football for the army, played football for the corps, do all that kind of stuff, right? What I love about the Silkies is they're like my go-to for loungewear. They're my go-to for comfort to just cut about. It's not like I'll go, oh yeah, I'll get them for running. I'll get them for this. I'll get them for sport. They're just like, they're so comfy for me to
It's like you're wearing nothing.
Just chill out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And as I say to you, when I'm working from home, I might have like even a shirt on at the top if it's an important meeting. The Silkies on at the bottom, mate. Do you know what I mean? Thankfully, I've got a stand-up desk and no one can see.
Yeah.
But they're just, mate, you've got them, like you said, from that constant feedback and trial and error and that risk, which will get us on to the next question in a second, is like, you've got it right, mate. You've absolutely got it right. And
Appreciate
I think
that, mate.
the
Really
testament is the fact that you've got 37 different styles, the fact that they are everywhere in the veteran community, whether it's people, fizzing, just casual, just even for bants, mate. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the things I really like. Because you've got the Royal Engineer ones, the Paul Air, you've got the Union Jack ones, you've got other ones where people are I'm going on holiday, I'm taking Silkies. The Royal Marines ones are class. Do you know what I mean? For the Royal Marine community. I guess it links to it with regards to that trial and error and that risk piece. But what's the biggest lesson or lessons that you've learned over the time that Gibraltar Trading Company has been in existence?
That's really hard. I mean, I've learned so much since doing this, and also I wouldn't say I'm at the end of the journey by a long shot. So I'd say there's probably more important lessons to be learned. Probably the most prevalent is you don't need a plan. A lot of people say, and it probably is a better route. If you have an end goal, you know what you want to achieve, make a plan, work back. That in theory makes perfect sense. I've never had a plan. Now I have plans because I have to, because I'm trying to manage something and like project forward and work with times and stuff. But like before about a year ago, I never had a plan. I never knew what I was trying to achieve. I never knew what GTC was going to be. And it's been harder for that reason, but you can do stuff reactively. So I guess one of the advices would be like, even if you don't really have all of the elements put together, you don't really know where you want it to go, you don't really know what you want to achieve. If you have somewhere you want to start, just start. It's like you can just figure it out and you can adapt. GTC was not the same it was 6 months ago. Definitely wasn't the same it was a year ago. And it's 100% different to what it was in 2020. Now we give out what we used to sell. Like we used to only sell stickers. Now we throw them and give them out in every single order if we've got them in stock. So it's like, and that used to be the only way we would make any money, was selling those items that now they're a token giveaway as a gift and a token of appreciation. It's like, you don't need a plan would be the first one. And the other one is just learn. You've got to learn. Unfortunately, you've got to learn. Like there's countless things that I didn't know how to do that is probably zero use in any other circumstance except for this specific use case. I needed to learn how international shipping works, websites work, spreadsheets work, WooCommerce works, payment gateways, both physical and in person, even just how to sign up for events or how a printer works, because you're always changing ink. It's just ridiculous. Like there's so many things. So just be prepared to learn and learn all you can about anything you're trying to do. And you don't need a plan. Just give it a crack and hope that something works out. But
Mate,
that also may be bullshit. I don't know.
I definitely don't think it is. And I'll tell you why I don't think it is. Because you must have been the 6th or 7th guest we've had on who at some point has gone, I just thought, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because like procrastination cripples people. And as we've mentioned it before, but the podcast itself. So Paul and I spoke about a podcast when I was leaving the army. Paul had already left the army, so it was like 4 years ago. And we were talking about the idea of doing a podcast talking to military veterans. And we were like, oh, we'd need a name Paul was like, well, what are you doing right now? And I was walking on the beach, mate, in North Wales with my dogs. And he was like, what are you looking at right now? I was like, coffee in a poo bag, mate. He's like, great. That's what we'll call the podcast. So we created this logo made out of emojis. We talked about it. We speak about it all the time. I never did it, mate. Never recorded an episode. Nothing. For 2 years, over 2 years, mate. Just gobbing off about it. And then like life events, like, you know, changed. And we said, we've got to do something about this. And we tried. And honestly, if I could find, I think I've deleted everything, but we had it. We just tried to record it on Spotify.
We had to delete it.
So Paul was in his house, I was here, and he was like, we're trying to record this first episode, this intro episode, talking about what we're doing on Spotify, and it just kept cutting it out. 2 hours, mate. No content, no nothing. And it was same again. It was like, we just can't do it. We're just fucking shit.
Yeah.
So we can't do it. But we just kept giving it a little go. And now, as I say, it's like, we've got a podcast, which we're really proud of. It's getting better all the time. We feel we're getting better all the time. But we could have easily just shit canned it because we couldn't work Spotify out. And so many of the guests come on and like, I just thought I'd give it a go. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's it. Like, and that's the way you get a good integrity, good quality brand, if you like, or good quality product at the end, because you haven't forced anything. You've gone, right, we want to do X. What do we call it? What are you doing now? I will call it that. And now that's a story. It's a thing. It's the identity of the brand or the community, the podcast you're creating. It's got a funny origin, which then helps the tone of the whole thing and the tone of the whole podcast, because it's honest. It's true. It's just who you are, what you were doing. So you was just like, oh yeah, well, this is it then. We've got to make it happen. Let's make it happen. Yeah. So yeah, it's really cool to hear, because like that is how essentially I've run GTC, is just like, oh, well, we'll just give that a go then. We'll just give that a go. And I think that you've got to do a certain amount of that. And then you've got to learn to be able to actually make that thing happen. But it's pretty cool to hear. And like, I've been meaning to take a look at some of the podcasts. I've seen a lot of the shorts online and stuff. So it'll be on the list of podcasts that I listen to and watch in the future. Definitely, boys. Yeah, enjoy it.
Oh, thank you, mate. The learning piece you talk about, I think, is huge for people in business. Huge. Because like, how could you, in the military, and especially, you know, you in like the Royal Marines and things like that, it's like social media isn't really a thing we push ourselves into in our job in the military. It's not really a thing. We avoid it. You know, we just, you know, because of security, just because of, we don't want to get awful banter. But like, social media is something that if you've got an online business now, or any business, you've got to be into your social media.
Yeah.
And how it's like that doesn't just happen by going, well, I naturally know it. You know, you've got to learn. And your social media on GTC, on Instagram and stuff, 17,000 followers is on point, and it's learning all that stuff.
That's rounded up very generously. I think we're at 16 and a half, but I'll take it.
16.7. I thought it was 16.7. Hold the line, mate.
I don't know. You'd have to check. But
you know
I'll take the rounding up generously. I really will.
I'll always round up, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, 100%. Like, and social media is horrible. I hate it. I also absolutely adore it. And it's a brilliant business tool. It's the perfect example of having to learn and adapt. You know, I don't like being the face of GTC. I was never meant to be the face of GTC, and I'm not the face of GTC. You know, it's only recently that I've started coming out and being like, you know, doing podcasts with my face out, or going on the Big Phil one and things like that. And like, because I'm doing events and stuff. So it's like, well, there's no point, you know, leaving it behind. But when you look and scroll down the whole page, I'm not on there. I'm not on there because I'm gopping. No. And that's what it was from an early stage. And we used to blur a lot of photos then, because we're using the same sort of models. Now we can blur a little bit less. Some we still do because they're in sensitive jobs and stuff. But like, most of them now is unblurred because they're just sort of normal people doing it as a model. So it's fine. But it was sort of like, I never had social media when I left. When I left the forces, didn't have Facebook, I had old ones, dormant accounts, but didn't touch them. And it was very much like, well, if I want to do this, I've got to have a presence, I've got to have something. And I didn't want to be the face of it. So I would say I'm terrible at social media, but the brand's now built in a way where we can utilize social media and we can talk in a way that is good for the brand. And that makes sense. Like, we don't use social media for as good as we could. Like, we were talking off air before about Robbie Buckets, and Jack down there. He's incredible at social media. He's social media aptitude, skill, whatever you want to call it, is off the charts. He's amazing. He does a lot of face to camera work. It pushes really well. All of his reels have got great themes to them. He's amazing. And it shows because the brand has absolutely skyrocketed. Good luck to him. I wish I had an ounce of that. And then you look at Through Dark. They've done it in a completely different way. Still got some faces to the brand, but it's in a completely different way, but also skyrocketed. Then you can look at the other side as well and look at, say, Reaper 17, for example, another Royal Marine apparel brand. Loads and loads of followers on Instagram. They've done their content in a very specific way as well, but you will never see the owners' faces. Contact Coffee. Very rarely see Luke's face, and you never see... I can't remember his name, unfortunately. I've never met him. So the other gent's name, you'll never see his name because he's still serving. So it's, his face still serving. So it's like, the point of trying to make it off, other than waffling, is that, you can learn to use social media, but you don't have to learn to use it in the same way that everyone is. There's different ways you can use it to help project within what you want to release to the public. So, yeah, you've got to learn stuff. Social media is a perfect example, but you don't have to do it the way everyone else is doing it. There is other ways.
We had Tom Day from Teg's Coaching. So Teg's ex-Royal Marines. And he's fascinating, by the way, like absolutely fascinating bloke. He understands social media to the nth detail.
He's another great example, yeah.
It's going into his brand. His social media is going into his brand. But one of the things he said was, everything has been done on social media. He said, so you've just got to think of a different way of presenting it. And it was like, fucking what brilliant bit of advice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're going to come up with some unique thing. We also had Luke on with Contact Coffee, and he was like he focuses a lot on search engine optimization now. And he was talking about like something that's trending in the morning is old news by the afternoon. Yeah. He said, so it's like, you've got to like get that balance. It's just the whole social media thing's fascinating. And I think some of the veteran brands do it so well. GTC really do it really well. It's an obvious brand. And like I said earlier on, what I love about it is it's a brand that, you could put next to like Passenger, you could put into like maybe Patagonia, that kind of space, not just a veteran owned brand. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, it stands its own is the way I see it. Certainly the flannel shirts, the caps, it just absolutely stands itself on its own 2 feet and not just leans on the veteran bit.
Well, I mega appreciate that, because that has been since, after a couple of years and it developed into a brand other than just the stickers. Like, that was one of the early goals that we wanted to achieve, was that, yes, we wanted it to be public, that's where we're from, that's the history, and that's what's made the way that we run the company. But we wanted to make it clear that it's not an isolating thing and that it's not just for those people, and that, we do want to stand, toe to toe at the bar with those big companies. And, whether we're doing it or not, I'll take the compliment and I mega appreciate it. And hopefully we can just solidify that space that little bit more. And also, on a weird, fluffy way, it helps people to realize that, yes, because you're a veteran or you're serving doesn't mean you're not part of the world. Like, it is very difficult because, there's always that division between serving veterans and Civvy Street, and like, I was a victim of it very early on leaving, that everyone in Civvy Street is a twat. No one works the way you want them to work. And I will admit there's probably a majority don't, and they won't, but not everyone. There are still those people, like I said at the beginning, with those character traits developed from different ways that can still fit in with the way that you would want it to work. And it's like, I think it just helps bridge that gap from both sides. Civvy Street, we shouldn't have to fully adapt as service leavers to adapt and fit into Civvy Street. And Civvy Street shouldn't have to fully adapt to accept services, and it shouldn't run the same, but both should move into the middle. If you want to be a service leader and go into the civilian world, you should give a bit and take a bit. Give a bit of yourself up so you fit in and you can forget some of the dark humor and less PC stuff maybe, but then also keep that integrity, keep that hard work, keep that identity, and I think there needs to be a bit of forgiving from the Civvy side and saying, okay, you might be a bit not PC from time to time. You might tell me to fuck off, and, put a hot spoon on my neck or something, but you bring in some good stuff in as well. So I think that's something that I wanted to do with GTC quite early on, was to create a brand that can ride that line, use the good bits, and then also mix it in. So to hear it is kind of holding that place means a lot. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mate, honestly, you're most welcome. I guess the final thing, time is upon us, mate. So the final thing I'll ask is, what's next, mate? What's next for GTC? What's the next thing?
That's a wonderful question. It's kind of one of those, we didn't start off wanting to be where we are now, so who really knows? All I can sort of say is what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. We've got some really cool products around the pipeline. As I say, we're up to 37 variations on the Silkies. We just put an order in for 6 more different colours and variations. We've got some really funny novelty shorts coming, so that'll be really fun. And then we've got some more seasonal ones coming later in the year as well, matching our Christmas one. So that's a big push for us, keep expanding the Silky range and really leaning into that. Winter wear wise, so we're going to improve and increase our flannel shirt range. The main effort with that is just keeping them in stock. We just can't keep them in stock. We can't buy them quick enough. So keep things in stock. Also expand the flannel range. Gilets, so we've got some recycled insulation gilets in the works. They're in their final stages, and they should be ready for this autumn. And we've also got a very secret project that I can't say too much about on the same sort of theme. That's coming. So product wise, mainly keeping with that theme. One thing that I'm very excited about is another secret product. Can't really say anything more, but is linked in with the Silkies, but for your upper half. So that I'm very excited about. And that's potentially got lots and lots of avenues for expansion off the back of that. And then other than sort of product wise, we're doing a lot of in-person events this year. So we're hitting up some airsoft ones. We're doing a lot of fitness events. Some can't afford to go to High Rocks, but local CrossFit type events, outdoor fitness events, mud run type vibes. We've got loads of them coming up. Some more veteran networking ones. So keep an eye on our social media. Make sure you can jump on, come and see us when we're doing those ones. And then the final goal, when we can, at the moment, that is a unit. So we really want to sort of emulate what Ben Garwood down at HR4K has done, and create space that can be a waypoint for veterans. Yes, we'll have our shop there, and we need the space to put all the stuff that we're going to be packing and shipping from. But also, we'd really like to make a community hub, a place where people can pass through, drop in for a wet, pick up some shorts if they need to. But really just to have another hub, very much like HR4K, where you can be with like-minded people, chat to like-minded people, do some events there, and just sort of have an in-person place for the community and for everyone just to sort of pop in and have a chat with like-minded people. So yeah, that's the big ones, and who knows if they'll ever happen. But yeah, that's where we're sort of tipping towards.
Mate, you've gone from selling stickers on Etsy to where you are now, and I've got no doubt it will happen. I mean, HR4K is an incredible project, incredible organisation. I know Ben. Ben was with 2Para back in the day before he went SF. I was the medic on an op tour in Iraq. Do you know what I mean? And his brother actually is a med corps as well. And what they've got in HR4K is a fascinating place, mate. It's good coffee. It's such a chilled environment as well as a shop. And I think those kind of hubs where you can, who knows, he does like live music there. They do like motorbike meets. They do all sorts there. It's a great thing forward. And I can't wait to when GTC has got that. Because if you do the big opening and that, and you need a podcast to come and support it, a couple of blokes with average beards, we're there, mate, Just in our
awesome.
Silkies.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Well, it's one other thing that I was saying that it'd have to be a summer opening, because I'll do a summer opening and it'll be like compulsory Silkies, or like if you're wearing Silkies, be free coffee or something like that. Yeah, free beer. So, it's been a pipe dream of mine for a long time now, and that's one of the things that is a bit different. You know, GTC, I didn't start off being like this, but a community hub of that kind came along as an idea that I'd like to do. And it's not going to be the same scale as HR4K straight away. They've been around for a long time. Ben's done an amazing job down there and they've got an amazing team. But if we can do a smaller scale version or something similar and then build up to their lofty sort of standpoint, that'd be amazing. So yeah,
Mate, I think it's ace.
It's a goal.
You know, and you think like linking into some of the other veteran-owned brands, like the veteran like coffee, some of the veteran coffee brands, and some of the other brands. I think it's it'd be a mega thing, mate, and it'd be. I'm looking forward to come to the opening, whatever year that will be.
Yeah, at this rate, 2045. But if we're still in
mate,
business,
I'll still be around. I mean, I'll be old as Dick, but I'll still be around, mate.
Still be rocking silkies.
in my 60s, in my silkies.
Nice. 60th anniversary silkies.
Yeah, I've just thought my dad then, and think of him in silkies, and I feel sick. Right, PJ, thank you so much for giving up your time, mate. We will keep you no longer. I cannot wait to share your story with the CAPB podcast community, mate, and cannot wait to see where GTC goes. You know, so thank you,
cheers,
mate.
boys. Mega appreciate you having me on and listening to my waffle. Hopefully, there's some a little bit of entertainment or something that people can take away. So yeah, appreciate you having me on, boys.
No worries, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Go steady.
Cheers. Stay wavy.